Thanks, Shameli. Let me share my screen. I'm looking for a share button here.
The share button should be on the bottom below the video.
Okay, I see it. Thank you. You should be able to see my screen here, all right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, sure. All right, as Chameli introduced, I'm Suman Ram, and I head the solutions for Zendesk in India and SARC. I thought I'd kick off by acknowledging that change is hard, exciting, and terrifying. And at the same time, depending upon which phase of change you're in, uh, you could experience it very differently. So as a business leader, I have to navigate these changes just like you. But I do have a privilege of having a bunch of insights into what companies, mostly our customers, are doing. And I'd love to share them with you. The way I see it, everything has changed. The way we work, the way we interact with our peers, the way we interact with business significantly have changed. Let me show you some of the stats and data that has changed ever since the last 6 months, probably. And these are some extensive studies that we have done with our customers across the globe. So what we're seeing is customers are waiting longer. There's a 30% more increase in the hold times. There is a heightened level of stress and interactions. That's more like 2x the calls scored as difficult from typical levels that an agent handles. And more calls need to involve for the next level of support. That means a 68% increase in the number of escalations. If you look at the channels of interaction, what customers are preferring to interact with businesses, the biggest gainer is WhatsApp, followed with a live chat, and followed closely with the social media, which could be either reaching out to businesses on channels like Facebook Messenger or Twitter direct handle. You would see that across the growth across multiple sectors, including retail and commerce. See the growth volumes, the metrics around the retail has grown about 40% in the ticket volumes, whereas e-commerce has also grown significantly. If I have to plot this from the beginning of 2000 vis-a-vis comparison to 2020, the ticket volumes are at an all-time high. And we've seen a lot of volatility. Some markets spiked early, whereas some took longer to catch up. But overall, if you see from Feb to, I think I have close to about beginning of September, there's been a significant rise in the volume of tickets if you compare to last year, about 20%, I would say roughly. And overall, if I compare from Feb, it's more like 43%, with most of the requests are in the space of e-commerce companies, led by e-commerce companies. If I give you an industry view, not just particular to one industry, but across, you would find from ride hailing to remote working. So let me walk you through one by one. There's a rapid change, both growth in the initial phases and then a decline across industries, not just particular to one industry. A boom in remote work and learning platforms, government and non-profit, healthcare, gaming, entertainment, social media, food and groceries delivery. A big drop across ride-sharing platforms, airlines, travel, and hospitality. I would attribute this to maybe, let's say, hey, beginning of the pandemic, I wasn't used to shopping groceries online. Maybe I got used to platforms like Big Basket or the Amazon Pantry. And then there's a spike in traffic because inadvertently, new users like me probably would have a question about loading their wallets, about a certain refund, certain delivery not happening on time, or a change in schedule of the delivery, and so on. But as and when I got used to the platform, I stopped, or rather reduced, raising queries on the platform. So that should explain why the number of queries have been dropping significantly over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
If I move to the same on the enterprise side, on the enterprise side, there's been a change. You could see there's been a 25% increase if you have to compare the same period last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest impact has been the ticket volume growth. You could see the winners from an sector-wise, the enterprise companies which cater in the space of e-commerce have seen a significant, close to 100% rise. And companies that cater to remote work have also seen a significant rise of 50%, followed closely with groceries and gaming. So you also know which are the companies which are spending, which are the companies which are thriving, which are the companies which are growing. Now, if I have to extend this to edutech, we've seen ticket volume surge at the peak of pandemic and then stabilize in the last month or so. That said, the average volume is still about 25% higher than the pre-pandemic numbers. That's because everybody is getting used to the new normal. Even if I have to quote a personal example, I wouldn't have imagined doing my executive MBA from IIM Bangalore virtually. I would have said, hey, that's not much of a value add. But with the pandemic levels now, I mean, that's become a new normal, right? I mean, there's just no way. In fact, if the college is thinking of opening up next quarter or the next term, students are hesitant. They're like, maybe not worth the risk. Why would we want to go into a closed environment and spend a few hours every week and you do not know who's picking up from where? So rather, I'm safe working from my home environment or studying, listening to the lectures from the home environment, because I also have family around with me. I just want to ensure that they are safe and I take care of them as well. Moving on, if I have to plot it against the channels, like I'd shown you earlier as well, WhatsApp tends to be the biggest gainer here, closely followed by chat. But whereas another stark observation for you is a channel like phone remain more or less flat.
Right.
So what it means is that customers are more and more willing to engage with us on channels that they interact with their friends and family. At the same time, they do not want to install a certain app just for the sake of interacting with the customer or the enterprise. Right. I'll give you some of the personal examples. Probably a bank with 2 or 3 banks, maybe HDFC, IDFC, and others. For each of them, I do not want to have a separate app unless I'm actively transacting on their platforms. Maybe my home loan or my education loan is with a bank which I don't frequently interact with. All that I need from them is probably a provisional certificate, just because I want to file returns and then I need a provisional certificate from them. So that is the only reason I do not want an app installed by the bank. I rather use a channel like a WhatsApp, which is omnipresent for me. It's available on my desktop, available on my phone, and interact with the bank on a WhatsApp channel. If I call up the bank, probably there are huge number of callers calling at the same time, and hence there's a hold time. I do not want to be waiting for such a long time. It will simplify for me if I were to chat with them and ask my query at the same time, multitask and probably focus on my work. Because if I'm on a call, that means I'm not able to multitask, do something else. At the same time, if I have to drop a message on WhatsApp, let's say regarding my restructuring of my loan, I don't have to worry so much about staying on the line and probably listening to the Beethoven or the new COVID helpline music. But the disadvantage, you can also ask me, hey, why would I not do that on a live chat? So if you're interacting with the live chat, that means, remember, you're going on to the bank's platform, either their mobile browser or their app. That means an additional effort on your side. Versus if they were to be present on WhatsApp, your interaction becomes a lot more easier. That means you don't have to install anything specifically for the banks per se.
Mm.
And if you look at the other approach that companies are taking in terms of solving the increased volume of tickets, you would see that self-service, which we call as a help center, where there's an FAQ portal that the company has, and you as a consumer would read the FAQ and self-help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a trend that we could see with respect to the number of help center views versus the number of the growth in ticket volume. So higher the grow in the ticket volume, you would see, especially I think, let me highlight one particular space, maybe the remote work and learning.
Right.
You would see 150% increase in the number of visits on their FAQ portals or the help center portals,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the actual ticket volume has, in comparison, barely increased to about 24%. That shows that people prefer interacting with companies in a self-service fashion rather than interacting with the agents either on a phone call or via a WhatsApp message or in chat. If they would, if there's an option for you to figure out an answer about the business via online self-service, they would rather prefer that rather than making an effort to touch base with them. I'm sure that's evident for us as well in our day-to-day life. When we have a query, the first thing we probably want to do is to open up our browser and Google it away, rather than pick up a phone to call up the help center on trying to fix a problem that you have. Let's say if your laptop is not working the way you want it, or your phone is not working the way you want it, the first thing, of course, you want to do is to Google for it and figure out what the best way to fix it.
Mm.
If it's not doable, that's when you would actually end up reaching out to the company for a more complex issues.
Mm.
So we have to summarize. There's been an increase in the number of tickets year on year compared to last year.
Mm.
In crisis, companies or customers tend to prefer channels which they used to with their friends and family. And the crisis is not evenly distributed. The larger companies facing in bigger spikes because of the way they're structured. And some industries saw a huge increase while others saw a decrease, rightfully so, because even their business wasn't doing so well.
Mm.
And a lot of companies have also increased their AI service. And bots and AI service essentially need a lot of FAQ or self-service in order to feed out of. So as much as there's crisis around, but that isn't taking any crisis out of the agents. And in terms of what is not changing, we spoke about what has changed earlier. In terms of what is not changing, I think these are attributes that customers expect in terms of return on investment, time to value, their expectations from the business. If you also want to include trust and agility, that is not changing. Let me walk you through that with the help of a case study. Khan Academy, for the ones who are not familiar, is a global leader in the edutech space. I've rightfully selected one of the global ones to stay out of the controversy with a lot of social media ire on some of the edtech startups in India. So Khan Academy, coincidentally, also is a Zendesk customer.
Okay.
And the good thing about them is they're a free education offering in the spaces that you and I can get help out of or are paid for. That's primarily in the humanities space or maths and science. And they're a large volume. There are about 2 crore customers which are active month on month.
Mm.
So just like any other tech space companies, they also saw an increase in volume of tickets. They've seen a significant 1,200% increase of the support tickets from their parents, because it's more like a marketplace where parents also raise queries, and there are also teachers who are asking queries. They also see a significant raise in the number of queries from the teachers as well.
Mm.
So here's how Khan Academy addressed this challenge. Number one, it automated the triage. What it means is prioritizing support for whom they need it urgently. So these are people who are first-time users of Khan Academy, never used Khan Academy before, hence they need highest level of priority. And for those who are returning, what they smartly did was to directed them to their self-service portal. have a very rich FAQ portal, and by doing so, they still maintain the CSAT at a steady state of 92%. So that really changed for them. Second, from a self-service perspective, they also engaged their community. This is a very important aspect, like we would see as well. When, let's say, even if you're cooking something at home, I mean, all of us are getting used to baking new things at home now. So the first thing that you would ask for some question is another fellow chef who's turned to a professional chef last 6 months, let's say, he's answering your query. So they leverage the power of the community to answer each other's query. That's true even with Zendesk too. For those of you who are customers of Zendesk or use Zendesk at some point of time, if you have a query about Zendesk, most often or not, it is the community of our Zendesk customers who reply to you first, even before our advocacy teams or our product management teams come and help you. So that's the power of community. And give you a metric there, out of every 39 tickets that are raised, 38 of them were answered by the community, and one just got converted into support ticket. So that's the power of community, especially if you're in a space where your users can help each other. This is a very powerful tool for you to leverage. And third, and the most, is the collaboration. The way Khan Academy helped was to integrate with tools like Slack and Jira. So for any specialized need that they need help from other teams, the query would directly flow into Slack because of the integrations that they had for the support community. Second, for any technical issues which are recurring, which more or less turned out to be a bug, they wanted to use Jira-based integrations or a similar. I'm just giving you as a reference the kind of tools these are. You could leverage any other. GitHub could be wherever the bug fixing tools are for you. You could leverage them for integration so that the tech fixes can be done by your engineers. So having spoke about an EduTech customer reference, let's also walk you through an example of a retail space. So as you would know, companies which operated purely on a virtual or a physical store model are facing a lot of difficulties. The only way for them, or the future for them, just like the future group for us, is having virtual stores and providing an online experience for your customers to reach out to you. For doing that, I have a small video to walk you through how that can be achieved. Let me play this. Chameli, you can probably help me if the sound is coming across or not. You hear sound as well?
Yeah, we are getting the sound.
Oh, good, thanks. So that should give you a peek into how you can serve your customers in the virtual world, and at the same time enrich or enhance their experience by also having physical stores for them to feel and experience the products. To summarize, I would say from a customer point of view, automate and enhance your self-service with a process or an option for users to escalate for a human agent to answer a question. And I would say encourage your agents to adopt empathy, change the customer messaging, just like always, put the customer at the center of everything that you do. From a second community approach, as I mentioned earlier, there's a very powerful community tool. Leverage your fellow users to answer fellow queries. What happens a lot of times is that your product is being tested and probably pushed to the limits by your fellow users more so than your existing in-house teams. So, like innovations max in the external environment rather than the internal environment most times. And third, in the virtual world, it is very important for you to collaborate with your teams with increasing use of the virtual world tools like messengers, like the Zoom calls or the equivalent. Ensure the workload is getting equally distributed across the teams. And of course, there's nothing wrong, or rather, it's only empowering you if you also have certain empathy for your colleagues as well, working remotely from their homes now. That's all I had to share with you today. Please do connect with us on social media, either on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Follow at Zendesk for the updates related to customer experience and what we are offering in this space. Thank you. That's all I had for today. Chameli, back to you.
Thank you, Suman. That was an amazing presentation. When we had a conversation about data-related presentation, I was not expecting such a detailed set of data, actually. So
yeah.
That's amazing. And interestingly, we have a question on how you procure data, the data that you presented, by Santosh Kumar, who is co-founder at Jikoo.io, Jikoo.io. And I am not sure if it is a coincidence, but they are a customer support software as well.
Okay, cool, Santosh. So happy to share the data insights. So mostly the way we do this, Santosh, is of course multifold. One is our customers who use a product. We have an explicit request from them if they want to share anonymized data with us. That's number one. So we also collect data by the size of the organization they are, the vertical that they belong to, and so on. Let's say they're an ed tech company or a ride-hailing space, and so on. Number two, of course, we engage third parties to collect data because we don't want the data to be skewed by the number of customers that Zendesk has. Although Zendesk has about 160,000 customers globally. So we still leverage third parties as well. I would be happy to share you some published data that we have from a third party, or you can also Google for it on our Zendesk website. You would find very, very insightful data across different verticals. So Chameli just gave me about 20 minutes time window today, so I couldn't have covered everything. So I broadly covered about two things. Number one on the retail, and the second on the edtech. But the detailed report will give you insights onto every individual vertical.
Thank you, Suman. I think that broadly explains the questions Santosh posted. So we have come to the end of this session. Suman, thank you for being a part of this, part of